All right, what's up, my friends? Welcome. Foundation's complete set review for the starter collection. Again, this is for the starter collection. It's like 140 cards, legal and standard for the next 5 years. Very, very important for standard. I did my main set review already on the main set you find in packs. That's on YouTube. Go watch it. Go check it out. All right. That's the deal with that. For this, we got a lot of cards to do it through, right? We do white, blue, black, and red. Look for those on YouTube as well. I'm also going to go over the Jumpstart cards for Arena, for Timeless, and Historic. Like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying it. Hit the buttons. Support the content. A lot of work goes into this. This set is also huge. There's a lot of things to do with it as well. Make sure you support the content. And we're brought to you by Untapped. We're on the ad real fast. We're going to get right to it.
Are you ready to elevate your limited game? Introducing Magic the Gathering Arena Limited Stats by Untapped GG to make every draft count. Whether you're a seasoned player or just starting, our meta tier list shows you the best colors to draft and how popular they are, so you know at a glance what colors to pick. Navigate card ratings to discover the strongest bombs, or dive deeper with our advanced view for detailed breakdowns. Ever wonder what it takes to get 7 wins? Explore trophy decks from other players, study winning drafts, and replicate their successes. Victory is just a click away at mtga.untapped.gg. Your path to Mythic starts here.
All right, let's do this with Aggressive Mammoth. Damn. 6 mana for an 8/8 trample. Gives other creatures trample. The stats here aren't heinous, but this is like your quintessential starter card, where it's big, it's flashy, it ends games, but as far as standard play goes, it's just not really good enough, so is what it is. Be a cool draft card, but is what it is. Bear Cub. Aww. The only way I'm okay with Grizzly Bears not being the starter card is if it's Bear Cub. All right. Obviously completely irrelevant for everything aside from just being cute. Look at that little guy, He's just a little guy just hanging out, living his life. All right. Let's get a thumbs up for Bear Cub, all right? Biogenic Upgrade is next. 6 mana sorcery. Distribute 3++ encounters among 1, 2, or 3 target creatures, and then double the counters on those creatures. This is like a commander card, right? Where this would be a pretty good draft card. It's good if you need to go really, really big, but in a one-on-one game of standard, a card like this is just way, way too not good enough. It requires so many things to even function. If you don't have creatures in play, this card does nothing. It costs 6. So while the upside is reasonable enough, just play a good 6 mana creature in this spot and don't try and rely on a card like this in your competitive one-on-one games. Ooh. 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 The gates ain't ablaze, unfortunately. That's the one thing we're really missing here. If Gates Ablaze was also in this set, we'd really be talking. But that being said, Circuitous Route is a really powerful Magic card. 4 mana for a sorcery. Search for 2 basics and or gates, put them in tapped, and then shuffle. So this is a mega ramp spell. The most important part here is obviously finding gates. All right, so gates are a subtype of lands. We'll see the gates in the last section of lands. They are coming to play tapped lands to tap for 2 colors and have a type gate. That's it. And gates, payoff cards, count the number of gates you have in play and do something. So, for example, we saw in white, there's an angel, 2 life for each gate you control, right? So we are missing some of the big ones. When Gates was around the first time, it was certainly a viable deck. It was also viable in Historic for a time being as well. But we had some big cards like Guild Summit, which is a blue enchantment that drew cards off each gate you played. And then Gates Ablaze, a red sweeper that countered the gates you have in a damage. But both those cards are not here, which is tough. But there are some good gate payoffs. We'll see a little bit. But if there is a gate deck, this card's kind of gas, realistically. So if there is a gate deck, this card's an absolute banger. Honestly, green's a little light. So I wanted this to be my sleeper card, but there just wasn't really a better card to choose. So I wanted it to be a sleeper card, but Route's very, very powerful. If the support is there, this card will be great. And the big thing about Gates is Maze's End, which we'll get to a little bit later. So I'm burying the lead here a little bit, but we're going to keep it buried till we get to our color section, all right? But Circuitous Route, pretty good card. Druid of the Cowl. This is a common mana dork. That's a lot worse than Llanowar Elves.
Still a piece of
Sorry.
garbage.
Fierce Empath, cool old card. 2 mana for an elf. It's a 1/1. When it ETBs, you tutor for a creature mana value 6 or greater and put it in your hand. This could possibly see play in very, very, very niche conditions. If there's some sort of elf ball deck, wants to find a finisher, yada, yada, yada. But that being said, that's pretty unlikely. So fringe player. There are some cool elf things happening in this set. So again, not impossible, but pretty unlikely. Finn, the Fangbearer. Finn, I'm going to call you Finn. Set it for a 1/3. It's got Death Touch. And whenever creature control Death Touch deals 7 damage to a player, they get 2 poison counters. 10 poison counters, they lose the game. I mean, it's a fun card. You know, obviously this is like the Death Touch build around card. There are no other poison cards in Standard currently. Not really good enough for Constructed, but it's cool. It's a cool card. I can see building a deck around it in Standard, have some fun FNM or whatever. Is what it is. What?
Good Lord. Gigantism.
So normally I wouldn't put a promo looking card in my set review, but this is the only version of Gigantosaurus there is. And Gigantosaurus is really, really simple. Green, 10/10. That's it. That's the whole story.
Good old Rock. Nothing beats that.
It's a reprint. It was in some core set a while back. Honestly, it's a great design. I know when John was like 6 years old, he saw this card and his head exploded. So that's the kind of reaction you want from newer players playing the game. This card does that. It's obviously not very good. It's a dinosaur. It's just like, I don't know why they wouldn't put dinosaur on the bottom of this card. I actually kind of hate this card's a Texels card because like it's in a starter set and like your newer player won't like know it's a dinosaur, you know? So like I kind of hate them doing this. But love the card being in a set. It's just a big dumb dinosaur. Constructed playable. I mean, no, but it's cool. Gnarlback Rhino. 4 mana for a 4/4. Trample. Cast spell with targets this creature, draw a card. That is a really, really powerful line of text to have on a card. I think the cost here is a little too much. You know, if this is like a 2/2 for 2, we'd be off to the races. But at 4 mana, not really good enough. It's uncapped, which is cool. So in theory, you could like play this with the Snakeskin Veil up. They try and kill it. You save it, draw a card, untap, and then go nuts. But for 4 mana, it's just not really good enough. And of course, the cards in the starter set are not unlimited. They're not in the main set, so there's no limited reviews here. So kind of a bummer. This card's like pretty close, but not quite there. Hero's Bane. 5 mana for a Hydra. It starts with 4 counters on it. Pay 4 and put X counters on it where X is its power. So double its power. Fun card for starter decks and stuff, but pretty unplayable. Imperious Perfect.
It's a trap.
It's our trap card, folks. This card was a really, really big deal a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. In original Lorwyn, this card saw play in Standard. This is a 3 mana 2/2. It's a Lord for Elves. Pay green, make an elf token. The problem is that it saw play back in the day in like 2009 because it was good enough on rate. 2/2 for 3 that made 2/2s was good enough. And there was a little bit of elf synergy. Not like a full elf deck. I think like the elf deck that won Worlds or whatever, or won a Pro Tour was like maybe, 12 elf cards in like a green black mid-range deck kind of. But these days, a 2/2 for 3 just ain't cutting it. All right. So there is some cool elf things happening. I think this card is playable if there is some sort of like all-in elf deck, but it's not a draw. It's a card you might play, maybe. Chat is torching me right now. Just torching me. But listen, I'm drawing it out so you don't get trapped by it. It is cool with Agatha's Soul Cauldron, but aside from that, it's just not really that good. Sorry, folks. I guess with Imperious Perfect and Archmage, whatever it's called, that makes green mana for all your elves, maybe you could build some sort of like, Agatha's Soul Cauldron deck. But yeah, Imperious Perfect is not as perfect as you might believe. Jorga Invocation, 6 mana sorcery. Each creature you control is supposed to be on a turn, must be blocked at turn of able. These kind of cards are really common in starter sets because like you have to end the game. If all the cards are just vanilla creatures, like you just don't ever end the game. That being said, it's unplayable. Sentry is just a vanilla creature, unplayable in Standard. Mold Adler. Oh my god.
Still a piece of garbage.
Black gets Deathmark, and green gets Mold Adler.
Somebody's playing a prank on me.
This is the green entry into the uncommon color hoser pile. And a pile it is. 1 green for a 1/1 snake. Opponent casts a blue or black spell. You may put a +1 counter on this creature. The problem, of course, is if they're playing blue or black spells, they're just countering or killing your shit anyway. So they'll just kill this. Whatever. You don't get a card off of it. I'll Doom Blade this instead. Who cares? Cut down. Don't care. Whatever. Next game. Really bad card. Just a really, really bad card. New Horizons. It's an aura that puts a counter on a creature and makes the mana. That being said, the rate's not good enough. This card is mostly unplayable. Ordeal of Nylea. So we get 1 of the 5 ordeals from original Theros. 2 mana for an enchantment aura. Whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then, if it has 3 or more counters on it, sacrifice this. And when you do, get 2 basics. So it's important to note, this card obviously plays off of itself, right? You play it, attack, get a counter, get a counter, get a counter, and sacrifices it. It also counts the counters that are already on a creature. So if you have a creature that already has 2 counters on it, you play this, attack immediately, you will add a counter and get 2 lands. That's pretty powerful, honestly. That's not a bad effect. This card never saw much play the first time around. I would probably need like pretty specific circumstances to be playable, but it's a cool card to have access to. There obviously is a lot of enchantment stuff right now in standard in green and white, and there's also a lot of +1 counter stuff too. If there's a deck that has a confluence of those things that also wants lands, this could be a card for it. Probably not, but it's a cool card. Pelakka Worm. This is like draft superstar Pelakka Worm. Obviously, there are better things to spend 7 mana on in your constructed decks. In limited, this card's an absolute house, but there's no limited for this card, so it's a sad day to be Pelakka Worm. Predator Ooze. Green, green, green. Indestructible Ooze. 1/1. Whenever it attacks, put a counter on it. Whenever a creature dealt damage with this dies, put a counter on it. I mean, one of the things about Llanowar Elves being legal is you really need to look at every single card that costs 3 mana and green with the effect of how does it look on turn 2. Turn 2 on the play, this card looks pretty good. You know, that being said, the power level is a little low. If there's some sort of like counter doubling effect, that would be cool. It plays well with Innkeeper's Talent, which is kind of nice. So honestly, I think this card is like got an outside shot. You know, there are edicts and exile effects, but like if you're playing against mono black, all they have is Doom Blades. You cast this card, you know, it could be fine. So I'd say fringe possibilities, hard to cast, but Primal Might, a card that was pretty good when it was first printed, but they've been turning up the dial on green fight effects for like the last 10 years. So now our past fights, we only do bites now, and they're all really good, making this card pretty bad. Just power crept out. It's not really good enough anymore. Is what it is. It is important to note that you can play it for 0 if you haven't played this card before, but still not very good. Primal Bounty. 6 mana for an enchantment. Cast a creature, get a 3/3. Cast a non-creature, put counters on things you control. Landfall, gain 3 life. Good example of a starter card where the kind of card that teaches you a lesson of spend 6 mana, do nothing. Your opponent untaps and kills it. And you just be really, really sad about it. This card is really, really powerful. It would be an awesome limited bomb if that was the case. I could envision maybe some sort of like enchantment deck that can like cast this pretty quickly, use it as like a late game kind of like win condition. But for the most part, this card is pretty rough. You know, it's cool, it's fun, it's just not very good though. Red-Mating Bailoffs. 6 mana for a 6/6 trample. Landfall, make a 4/4. Card's not bad. There's a lot of good ramp stuff in the format right now. This plays well with the Green Overlord. Plays well with Fable Passage. This card is a 7-drop. If I go Bailoffs, Passage, token, Gretland, token, go, that's pretty good. This card, you know, has an outside shot, I would say. It does play well with Landfall effects, plays well with the Overlords. Even if you just like cast Smuggler Surprise and putting this in an Overlord, that's pretty cool too. So it's, you know, the power level is reasonable enough. I think these cards could possibly see play, but it would need circumstances to be playable. Springbloom Druid comes out of Modern Horizons into Standard. 2 mana for a 1/1 that casts Harrow. Sack a land, search for 2 basic lands. Not the worst effect of all time, but probably not good enough. You know, just not really powerful enough in Standard. Is what it is. Surrak, the Hunt Caller. 5/4 for 4, legendary creature. Beginning combat in your turn, if you have 8 or more total power, you can give a creature haste. This card's like kind of a banger, but it's gotta live. You know, I didn't see a ton of play the first time around. It's cool because like you play a 3-drop, you play this on turn 4, it has haste back, and you play a 5-drop later that has haste also. The problem is, like, if your opponent's just killing your creatures, this card doesn't do anything. It's just like a 5/4 for 4, which is a huge, huge downside. So, I don't know. We'll see. Definitely a possibly playable card. Again, also cool at Smuggler Surprise. There are a surprising number of ways to give things haste in Standard. And there are a number of cards that do play very well with haste. The Overlords, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I don't know. Card's cool, but I think it's a French playable card. Path Warden. French vanilla creature, only good for limited. Moving on. Archer, same thing. Thrashing Brontodon is just worse than the other effects. There are just better creatures that kill enchantments or artifacts that don't need sacrifice. And there's no dinosaur synergy ever either, so just not really good enough. Venom Connoisseur, turn it for a 2/2. Whenever creature you control ETBs, this gets Death Touch. And second time, all creatures get Death Touch. Just a limited card. Vizier of the Menagerie. This is a card that did basically nothing the first time around. 4/4, a 3/4. It reads pretty well. Top card of your library, you can look at it. If it's a creature, you can play it. You can play mana of any color for cast creature spells. That part's not really relevant. But this card plays, if you are playing a creature-heavy deck and they do not kill this card, you're going to do some stuff. It's weird because, like, it plays really well in an elf deck, even though it's not an elf. But if you're making mana looking to draw cards, it does do stuff. That being said, the pedigree history here is not good. This card did not see play the first time around, but it is a powerful card, and it's kind of a cool card. You play it on turn 5 or 6. Hopefully you have a creature on top. Maybe you have a passage. You can, like, reshuffle and try and look again. But yeah, I'm going to give it Sleeper Reward. I think green is pretty tame, honestly, in the starter collection set. But getting Llanowar Elves in the main set is a pretty big deal. So that's fine. Sleeper card is Vizier of the Menagerie. Wild Boar Preserver returns as well to whenever a 2/2 flash, reach. Whenever a non-human ETBs pay X, but counters on it. This was a card saw a little bit of play when the Simic Flash decks were legal in Standard. That being said, that was a very, very specific archetype. And if that exact type of deck is not playable, this is not playable either. But, outside shot. Wild Art Evoker, cool draft card. Cool mana sink for starter decks. Not playable otherwise. That's it for green. So green's a little light here in the starter set. It's pretty good in the main set. Scavenging Ooze, Llanowar Elves, but in the starter set, not great. So recap here. Best in Show, Circuitous Route. Vizier of the Menagerie is our sleeper card, and Imperious Perfect is our trap card. We got Multicolor next, a ton of bangers in it, and Colorless also has a ton of bangers, so don't go nowhere. You two folks, love you. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's do this.